My name is Lily Hayes, and at 34, gazing out at the sprawling cityscape from my high-rise office, I often reflect on the winding path that led me here. It wasn't paved with accolades alone, nor solely defined by the impressive growth of my company. Instead, my journey was marked by the sharp sting of betrayal, nourished by the quiet strength born from resilience, and illuminated by a fierce determination that ignited in the face of profound hurt. To truly grasp my story, you can't begin here, at this vantage point. You need to travel back a decade, to a time of naive hope about to be shattered by a simple, devastating lie. 10 years ago, I was a 24-year-old on the cusp of graduation, my focus intently set on my urban studies degree, fueled by an idealistic vision of creating more equitable and vibrant cityscapes. That vision crystallized on a drizzly April morning when the acceptance letter from MIT's master's program landed in my mailbox. It wasn't just an acceptance, it was the culmination of countless late nights fueled by lukewarm coffee, the tangible reward for juggling part-time jobs and academic rigor. It was my validation. To reach that point, I'd lived a life of constant balancing. By day, I was a dedicated student, immersed in lectures and research. But as dusk settled, I transformed into a tireless worker. I waitressed at a bustling diner during brunch, the clatter of plates and endless coffee refills a familiar rhythm. In the afternoons, I tutored undergraduates in writing, patiently guiding them through essays while my own research papers beckoned. And late into the night, I took on freelance graphic design projects, my creative energy pushing through exhaustion. My existence was a demanding blend of intellectual pursuit and sheer necessity. Meanwhile, my family inhabited a different sphere entirely. My parents, Robert and Susan Hayes, valued security, financial stability, and achievements that offered tangible prestige. My aspirations for community-focused urban development seemed abstract and idealistic to them, a stark contrast to the more conventional success they envisioned. And in their eyes, that success was perfectly embodied by my younger brother, Ethan, 2 years my junior. Ethan possessed a natural charm and an easy confidence that seemed to effortlessly draw people in. Having sailed through a business degree, he quickly secured a coveted position at a prestigious consulting firm, complete with a corner office and a rapidly ascending career trajectory. He represented the very definition of achievement in my parents' world. Each holiday, Ethan would arrive home in his leased luxury sedan, bearing expensive gifts and regaling them with stories of high-stakes meetings and glamorous business trips. My own updates about zoning regulations or community garden initiatives were met with polite nods, a clear indication that their true pride lay elsewhere. The unspoken favoritism permeated our home. It was evident in the way my father would enthusiastically discuss Ethan's latest promotion while offering a perfunctory, "That's nice, honey," when I shared my thesis progress. It manifested in subtle ways, like Ethan always getting the last piece of the good dessert. The most cutting instance occurred during my college graduation. My parents threw a celebratory dinner, but the conversation revolved almost entirely around Ethan's upcoming internship. My academic achievements, the long hours and dedication that had earned me honors, felt like a footnote in their narrative. That subtle but persistent undercurrent of comparison had etched itself into my understanding of my place within the family. Always a step behind, always slightly less valued. So, when my parents announced their final trip to their beloved cabin in Maine that summer, a fragile hope stirred within me. Maine wasn't just a vacation spot. The rustic cabin nestled beside the serene waters of Moosehead Lake held a wealth of childhood memories, fishing with my dad, exploring the surrounding woods with Ethan, and my mom's comforting presence as she read stories by the crackling fireplace. But now, citing increasing upkeep and their desire to downsize, they had decided to sell it. This trip, they explained, was a sentimental farewell. For me, it represented something more profound. It was a precious opportunity to reconnect with them before I immersed myself in the demanding world of MIT. It was a chance to perhaps show them the substance behind my academic pursuits, to be seen as Lily, not just Ethan's less conventional older sister. I imagined quiet moments by the lake, sharing my aspirations, and maybe, just maybe, finally bridging the emotional distance that had grown between us. I held on to the naive belief that the tranquil beauty of Maine could somehow mend the unspoken fractures within our family. "We're flying out on Saturday, the 15th of August, sweetie," my mother said during our phone call, her tone laced with an unusual sweetness, a saccharine quality that would later resonate as pure manipulation. "Our flight leaves Logan at 9 a.m. Do try to get there a little early so we can navigate security together. Your father and I are really looking forward to this." I marked the date with a vibrant pink highlighter on my desk calendar. I rearranged my tutoring schedule, declined a lucrative web design project, and even treated myself to a new journal, hoping to capture my thoughts and experiences during this meaningful trip. A quiet anticipation filled me, a fragile sense of belonging I hadn't felt in years. Saturday, the 15th of August dawned bright and clear over Boston. I arrived at Logan Airport at 7 a.m., eager and slightly nervous. I wheeled my small carry-on through the bustling terminal, a sense of hopeful anticipation fluttering in my chest. I approached the check-in counter, my driver's license and boarding information readily in hand. "Good morning," the airline agent greeted me with a polite smile. "Checking in for your flight to Bangor?" "Yes," I replied, returning her smile. "My name is Lily Hayes." She tapped on her keyboard, then her brow furrowed slightly. She typed again, her gaze fixed on the screen. A prolonged silence stretched between us. "I'm sorry, Miss Hayes," she said finally, her tone apologetic. "I don't see a reservation under your name for today's flights." "That can't be right," I stammered, a knot tightening in my stomach. "My family booked the tickets for all of us. Robert and Susan Hayes, and Ethan Hayes." The agent's fingers danced across the keys once more. "Ah, yes, I see the Hayes family's reservation." She looked up, her eyes conveying a hesitant sympathy. "However, their flight departed at 9 a.m. yesterday. Friday, the 14th. The sounds of the busy airport seemed to fade into a muffled hum. "Yesterday?" I repeated, the word feeling foreign and unreal. "But my mother specifically told me it was today." "I understand, ma'am, but the system clearly indicates they checked in and boarded their flight yesterday morning." The floor beneath me seemed to tilt. I stumbled back slightly, a wave of cold disbelief washing over me. This had to be some sort of mistake. A technical error. My mother wouldn't do this. My fingers trembled as I pulled out my phone. "Mom." Voicemail, "Dad." Voicemail. "Ethan." It rang once, then went straight to voicemail, as if he had deliberately rejected the call. I dialed again and again, a growing sense of panic seizing me. But the only response was the cold, digital void. I sank onto a nearby bench, my mind reeling. Around me, families embraced, children squealed with excitement, and couples held hands, their shared journey just beginning. And here I sat, alone and adrift. Almost instinctively, I opened Instagram. And there it was, the confirmation, the cold, hard truth displayed for the world to see. Ethan's latest post, uploaded a few hours earlier, was a picture-perfect family selfie. He stood beaming, with the familiar backdrop of Moosehead Lake shimmering behind him. My parents stood on either side, their arms linked through his, their faces radiating a picture of familial contentment. The caption read, "Making memories at the lake. Last trip to our special place. Number family time, number Maine adventures." Family time. The words struck me with the force of a physical blow. They were there, they were enjoying their family time. Without me. And this wasn't an oversight, this was deliberate. They had intentionally misled me, erasing me from their final shared experience in a place that held so much of our history. The casual hashtag, number family time, felt like a cruel twist of the knife. The pain wasn't a sudden, overwhelming surge. It was a slow, insidious chill that seeped into my bones, leaving me numb. There was no immediate outburst of anger, no tears welled up. Just a hollow, echoing emptiness and the stark realization that I had been clinging to a false narrative for far too long. I hadn't just been forgotten at the airport. I had been excluded, intentionally, and the casual cruelty of it was breathtaking. I don't recall the mechanics of leaving the airport. I just remember standing outside my small, sparsely furnished apartment in a quiet neighborhood, the familiar scent of blooming lilacs doing little to soothe the turmoil within me. I opened the door, pulled my forgotten carry-on inside, and left it standing forlornly by the door. I sat heavily on the edge of my bed, staring blankly at the wall, the weight of their deception pressing down on me. Sleep offered no escape that night. Something fundamental had shifted within me. The quiet ember of my ambition flared into a determined flame. But it was no longer fueled by a yearning for their approval or a need to prove myself to them. My motivation had become starker, more elemental. It was about self-preservation. And not just survival, but a quiet, steely resolve to thrive. I would not let their betrayal define me. I would channel it. I would build a life so full and meaningful that their actions, their opinions, would eventually fade into insignificance. My most potent response wouldn't be a dramatic confrontation, it would be the undeniable force of my own success. For the next week, an uncharacteristic silence enveloped me. I didn't reach out to them, and they didn't contact me. That silence spoke volumes. When they eventually returned, my mother called, her tone light and breezy, as if discussing weekend plans. "Lily, honey, it's Mom." "Oh, you won't believe it. I completely muddled the dates for our flight. I am so sorry, sweetie. You must be so upset. We had such a lovely time in Maine. We just missed you terribly." The casualness of her apology, the almost dismissive tone, felt like another layer of insult. I inhaled deeply, the cold knot in my stomach remaining stubbornly in place. "It's all right, Mom," I replied, my voice betraying a newfound coolness that even surprised me. "I've been quite busy myself. I'm actually getting ready to move to Cambridge." There was a beat of silence on the other end of the line. Then, my father's voice came on, devoid of any genuine remorse, replaced by a pragmatic, almost businesslike tone. "Lily, listen. Your mother and I have been talking. You getting into MIT is fantastic, a real accomplishment. It also signifies that you're entering a new phase of independence. From this point forward, we expect you to manage your own finances. We won't be providing further support. Ethan has some promising investment opportunities coming up, and we need to focus our resources on his future. I trust you understand." It was the final, decisive cut. The lie about the flight was merely the prelude. This was the severing of the last tie. They weren't just excluding me from a memory, they were actively withdrawing their support, casting me adrift. "I understand," I said, my voice flat, and I hung up before they could offer any further hollow words. That was the moment I truly felt like an orphan. That night, under the stark glow of my desk lamp, I began to meticulously outline a plan. A plan built on self-reliance and unwavering focus. 2 weeks later, I arrived in Cambridge with a single suitcase, a dwindling bank balance, and a fierce, quiet determination. I found a small, uninspiring room in a shared house just outside Central Square, a far cry from the more picturesque parts of the city. The room was cramped, the walls thin, and the window offered a view of a perpetually overflowing dumpster. But it was affordable, and that was all that mattered. The constant hum of the city and the distant wail of sirens became the backdrop to my new chapter. My life transformed into a relentless cycle of study and work. By 6 a.m., I was at a local coffee shop, pulling espresso shots and wiping down counters. The early morning rush was grueling, but the tips were essential. Throughout the day, I immersed myself in the demanding curriculum at MIT, the intellectual challenges a welcome distraction from the emotional turmoil. Evenings were spent waitressing at a busy restaurant near campus, the endless stream of orders and demanding patrons a test of endurance. Late into the night, I squeezed in freelance web design projects, my skills providing a crucial, albeit exhausting, source of income. Sleep became a luxury I could barely afford. Meals were often skipped or consisted of the cheapest options available. I lost weight, my clothes hanging loosely on my frame, but a new kind of resilience began to solidify within me. It was in this demanding environment that I found my true mentors and allies. The first was Professor Eleanor Vance, a formidable figure in the Urban Studies department, known for her sharp intellect and unwavering commitment to social justice. During my first presentation, where I passionately argued for incorporating community-led design principles in urban renewal projects, she challenged my assumptions with incisive questions. After class, she approached me. "Miss Hayes," she said, her gaze direct and assessing. "Your passion is evident, but your proposals lack a certain grounding. You speak of community needs, but have you truly immersed yourself in those communities? Lived their challenges?" Her words were a sharp but necessary critique. I realized I was approaching these complex issues from a purely academic perspective. That evening, instead of rushing to my design work, I attended a community meeting in a low-income neighborhood, simply listening to the residents' concerns about housing, safety, and access to resources. It was a humbling experience. My thesis began to evolve, incorporating real-world perspectives and a deeper understanding of the human element in urban planning. Professor Vance became an invaluable mentor, guiding my research, challenging my thinking, and connecting me with community leaders. She also encouraged me to apply for the prestigious Jane Addams Fellowship, a grant supporting graduate research focused on social impact. Her belief in my potential was a lifeline during those challenging early months. My second steadfast ally was Diego Ramirez, a fellow graduate student from Ecuador with a brilliant mind and an equally determined spirit. We bonded over late-night study sessions in the library, navigating complex statistical analyses and theoretical debates. Diego, who was pursuing a degree in public policy, understood the systemic barriers I was studying and offered invaluable insights from a different cultural perspective. We became each other's sounding boards, offering encouragement and practical advice. Diego, along with Professor Vance, became part of my chosen family, a network of support built on shared intellectual curiosity and mutual respect. A pivotal moment arrived during a seminar on sustainable urban development. We were tasked with developing a comprehensive plan for revitalizing a struggling post-industrial neighborhood. While many of my classmates focused on attracting high-tech industries and gentrifying the area, my proposal centered on preserving the existing community, fostering local businesses, and creating affordable housing options with robust public transportation access. My plan was met with skepticism by some, but Professor Vance recognized the depth of my research and the genuine commitment behind it. Lily's proposal, she argued during the class discussion, demonstrates a true understanding of equitable development. It prioritizes the needs of the existing community, rather than simply displacing them in the name of progress. Her support was instrumental in validating my approach. Building on this project, I decided to enter MIT's annual Ideas Global Challenge, a competition that supports student-led social ventures. My proposal, an initiative to develop a comprehensive resource platform connecting underserved communities with vital social services and affordable housing options, resonated with the judges. I spent countless hours refining my business plan, drawing on my research and the practical insights I had gained from my part-time jobs and community engagement. Standing before the judges, I spoke not just about data and demographics, but about the human stories I had encountered, the faces behind the statistics. I articulated my vision for a more inclusive and just urban future, where access to opportunity wasn't determined by zip code. My presentation garnered significant attention, and while I didn't win the top prize, I secured a substantial grant to pilot my initiative. It was a validation that propelled me forward, a tangible sign that my work had the potential to create real change. I graduated with honors, my academic achievements a testament to my dedication and the unwavering support of Professor Vance and Diego. The pilot program for my community resource platform began to take shape, and with the grant funding and the invaluable mentorship I continued to receive, it slowly started to gain traction. Over the next few years, my initiative grew from a small pilot project into a thriving nonprofit organization, Connect Urbana. We built partnerships with local community centers, government agencies, and affordable housing developers, creating a centralized hub for individuals and families to access the resources they needed. The work was challenging, the hours demanding, but the impact we were having on people's lives was deeply rewarding. Connect Urbana became my passion, my driving force. Throughout this period, contact with my family remained minimal and perfunctory. My mother would occasionally send generic congratulatory messages on holidays. I'd see infrequent, impersonal likes on my LinkedIn updates about Connect Urbana. They were aware of my work, but there was no real engagement, no genuine curiosity about the challenges and triumphs of building a social enterprise from the ground up. The emotional distance had become a familiar, albeit still slightly tender, ache. Then, a crisp, elegantly designed invitation arrived in the mail. My parents were celebrating their 35th wedding anniversary with a formal gala at a prestigious downtown hotel. Tucked inside was a handwritten note from my mother, the familiar cursive, slightly more formal than usual. "Dearest Lily, Robert and I would be so honored if you would join us and perhaps say a few words. It would mean the world to us to have you there. The whole family will be together." The whole family. The phrase echoed in my mind. Years ago, I had been deliberately excluded from a family trip. Now, I was being invited to center stage at their milestone celebration. The motivation was transparent. They didn't need Lily, the daughter who had pursued a different path. They needed Lily Hayes, the founder of a successful nonprofit, a respected figure in the community. A narrative of success to present to their social circle. I was the accomplished daughter they could showcase. Diego, who had become a close friend and collaborator at Connect Urbana, raised an eyebrow when I showed him the invitation. "You don't have to do this, Lily," he said gently. "You've built a life of purpose without their acknowledgement." "I know," I replied, a thoughtful smile forming. "But I think I do, not for them, but for myself. It's time to acknowledge the journey, and perhaps, to redefine the narrative." The night of the gala, I arrived at the grand ballroom. The air thick with the murmur of well-dressed guests and the clinking of champagne glasses. I wore a simple but elegant dress, a quiet confidence radiating from me. My parents greeted me with an effusive display of affection that felt strangely performative. "Lily, darling," my mother exclaimed, pulling me into a tight hug. "We are so thrilled you could make it. You look just lovely." "It's good to see you both," I replied, my tone polite but reserved. Ethan was nearby, looking polished and successful in a tailored suit. His greeting was cordial but lacked any real warmth. I'd heard through the grapevine that his consulting career had hit a plateau, the initial meteoric rise leveling out. The evening unfolded as a carefully orchestrated display of affluence. Guests mingled, offering polite congratulations on my work with Connect Urbana, their interest seemingly superficial. My parents circulated, proudly introducing me as their daughter, the implication clear. Asterisk, she's successful, just like her brother, in her own way, of course. Asterisk, I played my part, offering gracious smiles and brief explanations of Connect Urbana's mission, biding my time. Later in the evening, after dinner, my father approached the microphone. "And now," he announced, his voice filled with practiced emotion, "we have a very special guest we'd like to invite to the stage. Our daughter, Lily, who has dedicated her life to making a real difference in our community through her incredible work with Connect Urbana. We are so incredibly proud of her." Polite applause rippled through the ballroom. I walked to the stage, a sense of calm resolve settling over me. The soft spotlight illuminated the podium. I looked out at the sea of faces, then down at my parents, their expressions a blend of pride and anticipation. Ethan watched with a neutral expression. "Good evening, everyone," I began, my voice clear and steady. "It's an honor to be here tonight to celebrate my parents' 35th wedding anniversary, a significant milestone. It's often said that family is the bedrock, the foundation upon which we build our lives and our successes. Tonight, I'd like to share a little about my own foundation." I saw my parents exchange pleased glances. They assumed my speech would be a tribute to them. 10 years ago, I continued, my tone shifting, becoming more deliberate, as I was preparing to embark on a new chapter of my education, I was also looking forward to a final family trip to our cabin in Maine. However, The foundation of my journey took an unexpected turn. It was marked by a deliberate miscommunication regarding travel plans. A miscommunication that resulted in my being left behind while my family departed without me. A visible ripple went through the audience. The smiles on my parents' faces wavered. Subsequently, I continued, my gaze steady. That unexpected departure was followed by a clear message. The financial support I had relied upon would no longer be available. The foundation beneath me shifted, not in a way that propelled me forward, but in a way that required me to build anew, independently. My father's face had paled slightly. My mother's hands tightened on her clutch. A low murmur began to circulate among the guests. But it is often in those moments of unexpected shifts, those times when the familiar foundation crumbles, that we discover our own strength. My foundation wasn't built on inherited privilege. It was built on countless hours of juggling work and study, on the unwavering support of mentors who saw potential where others saw struggle, and on the solidarity of friends who understood the meaning of true partnership. I am eternally grateful for Professor Eleanor Vance's guidance and belief in me, and for the unwavering friendship of Diego Ramirez. You both became the family I needed. I paused, my gaze sweeping across the room, acknowledging them with a grateful nod. The work of Connect Urbana, I continued, my voice gaining strength, isn't just about providing resources. It's about building a new kind of foundation for our community. One where everyone has access to opportunity and support, regardless of their background or circumstances. It's about creating a safety net for those whose original foundations may have proven unstable. I looked directly at my parents, their earlier composure completely gone, replaced by a mixture of discomfort and apprehension. So, tonight, instead of simply offering congratulations, I wanted to share a part of my own foundation story, a story that has shaped who I am and the work I am deeply committed to. A story that underscores the importance of resilience, the power of chosen connections, and the profound impact of building your own way when the path you expected disappears. I offered a small, genuine smile. Thank you. The applause that followed was different. It wasn't just polite, it held a weight of understanding, a recognition of the vulnerability and strength in my words. I stepped away from the microphone, my gaze briefly meeting Diego's and Professor Vance's, both offering silent nods of support. I hadn't delivered a scathing indictment, but I had laid bare a truth that had shaped my journey and now informed my purpose. In the weeks that followed, the silence from my parents was deafening. There were no apologetic emails, no probing phone calls. The carefully constructed image they had presented that evening had been subtly fractured, and the unspoken truths hung heavy in the air. Life continued. Connect Urbana thrived, expanding its reach and impact. The quiet satisfaction of making a tangible difference in people's lives became its own reward. I had built a life grounded in purpose and surrounded by a chosen family of supportive, like-minded individuals. Occasionally, I would think of the cabin in Maine. It no longer represented a place of longing or a lost connection. It was simply a memory, a marker on a path that had veered in an unexpected but ultimately more fulfilling direction. I had learned that true belonging wasn't about shared bloodlines or forced proximity. It was about the connections we forged, the support we offered, and the love we chose to give and receive. My story wasn't one of bitterness, but of building a new foundation, stronger and more resilient than the one I had once known. And that, I realized, was a powerful and liberating truth.